In 2018, we had the opportunity to come to Clemson University and start a new center for human genetics. We got a new building. We were able to build from the ground up. We are a relatively small center. We really thought very hard about where could we make a really big, unique impact.
Well, addiction, of course, is rampant, particularly opioid addiction. We're studying cocaine addiction, moving into the opioids now. We do the studies to find drugs that can ameliorate the effects of opioid addiction.
So I study the genetics of cocaine use disorder. And for humans, it becomes very difficult to study because there are all of these comorbidities and other complications. So I really think that in the future, we're going to narrow down more and more genes that are involved in addiction and hopefully lead to a biological therapy that can be used to treat their addiction.
We're going right now into the fly room. These are special incubators that have different temperatures for the flies to develop in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks. And I'm opening the door here to the normal temperature is 25 degrees Celsius, around 70 or so Fahrenheit. And this is optimal for fly growth. And right here, you can see like 1,000 different fly strains. Some flies are models of human diseases. This surprises everyone when they first hear it, but fruit flies share 75% of human disease genes. They have a lot of behaviors and complex traits that are analogous to those in humans. We can measure brain function. We are actually studying lifespan and sensitivity and resistance to drugs of abuse, as well as environmental toxins.
This is our fly lab. Here's where we do a lot of our experimenting. We do a lot of testing with the flies. Also, we do a lot of Drosophila fruit fly brain samples here. So we can take the brains out and image them and look for different abnormalities or see where specific genes are being expressed.
I love solving problems, and the more complex, the more driven I am to try to solve it. One of them is trying to understand what types of cells predominantly respond to acute exposure to certain chemicals. That's the frontier. This requires cutting-edge technology, highly competent people who think inside and outside of the box. We are very good at identifying both those problems and recruiting the people who can solve those problems.
Prediction of disease risk. This is an area that we target in the Center for Human Genetics.
Trudy's lab has long been interested in those secondary genes. We are able to kind of disentangle what's going on from a genetic basis versus what's going on due to their environmental exposures.
As you may know, Trudy, Mackay and I are a husband and wife, and we have collaborated for about 35 happy years.
He's a biochemist and neurobiologist, and I was a geneticist. And our first project that we did, we just took flies home and measured their behaviors on the kitchen table, and that was kind of our first project together. And because we have such different expertise, it's really expanded the group's impact.
It's kind of like you get this power duo.
They have slightly different areas and fields of expertise, and they work really well together. And that sets the tone for the center.
It is fantastic. I've been very lucky. I always tell people, Trudy is the brains, I'm the cheerleader.
To get where Trudy is and to get where Trudy has been as a woman in science, you had to do something pretty remarkable to be able to have the amount of elite notoriety that she has in the field. I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Trudy had ideas that were not popular at the time, but now looking back, gosh, if we had only been going down that path within genetics, what could we have known?
So we have grown enormously. The building, as a consequence, is completely full.
I think that how quickly we have filled this building is proof that there is a draw and there's also a need for scientists here.
There's enormous possibility here, and the Center for Human Genetics can be a driver for that growth.
A lot of the work we're doing on addiction is answering questions that can't be answered in humans. Hopefully, once we figure out more genes that are involved and exactly how they're involved, We can experiment with gene therapies to see, is there a pharmaceutical therapy that we can use to treat addiction?
The hope is to reduce our liability to common diseases and also to know what environmental risk factors we can avoid to make us more healthy longer term. When do you get most excited in science? It's when you find something unexpected. Even now, we're finding out new aspects to addiction.